Like, share, subscribe, click the notification bell, and on with the video. Alright, so this is SHTF Guard coming back at you. It's been a while. Took a little break from YouTube for a bit. But anyways, we're going to go back and do some talking about current events. And then particularly energy, and why the energy is important in a way that is not being talked about right now, and why this information may help you decide on what kind of preps you may be missing or needing. So I want to go back to a story from June 15th. I wrote it up there to show what it was. And this was talking about the factory is scrambling to find alternatives to Russian energy. Under threat, the Moscow may abruptly turn off the gas spigot, bringing production to a halt. Okay, so that was what they were saying June 15th. They're worried about it being brought to a halt because Europe's producers of chemicals, fertilizer, steel, and other energy-intensive goods have come under pressure in the last 8 months with tensions with Russia crumbling ahead of February invasion. So, back over the summer, of course it's still summertime, but I guess it's moving towards fall. Height of summertime, they say, hey, what happens if this gas gets totally cut off? Well, it's basically cut off now. They're saying that there's parts that they need, they can't get because of sanctions. Of course, they're blaming it on that. They're doing some reselling of stuff. So Russia is selling fuel to China. China's marking it up, reselling it back to Europe. They're cutting off pipeline flows, like Nord Stream 1's cut. And then you got some pipeline through Turkey. I read about that also being at a reduced flow. Not totally cut off, but they basically have Europe over a barrel. And with that being the case, prices are going through the roof. And of course, what happens in one large part of the world is going to affect other parts as part of a global economy. But there's a certain aspect of that that's not been discussed yet. I haven't seen it really so much in the news. I haven't seen anybody else talking about it on YouTube. So of course, I decided to mention it myself. And I got this nice black and white graphic of corn from a news article here that I want to talk about, because I did find it in one article whenever I went searching for it to see if anybody was actually talking about it. And of course, here's the big giant headline: European corn risks being left in the fields as gas crunch bites. And why is that? Is because, like rice, which is what I'm more familiar with from where I grew up, corn also needs to be dried in big dryers. So they'll harvest the corn, they'll bring it to dryers, they'll dry it, which stabilizes it, and it can be ground in the cornmeal or whatever happens to it. But that's its main method of preservation. I mean, some of it's going to get canned, whatever, but a lot of it's going to be just dried. And how you dry that: propane, natural gas, whatever. So those fossil fuels, especially natural gas, is not coming to Europe in the rate it was coming to them before. Their own natural production has been curbed for years due to the Green New Deal type policies that they have over there. And so they're really paying the price now for moving to green energy. So they didn't really move to green energy. They just kind of offshored their own energy to other places. And now places like Russia, where they offshore their energy, is now getting to dictate terms to Europe. We're not producing enough in the United States to export enough to them to be able to make up the difference. But the moisture content has got to be below a certain threshold, and it's got to be dried down, and the harvest is collected through November. So it goes to show you that there's a little bit of time left to stock up on cornmeal and corn-based products, because once this happens, people are talking about the yields are low, the weather's destroying this, you got floods in this part of the world, and you got droughts in this other part of the world. But Europe, and that's a pretty big place, they're pretty much all the European bloc is being starved of gas. So they're obviously going to be able to leave some of this in the field to dry. So still some time left. Alright, so with the harvest being collected through November, that means that real soon this is going to start making an impact. They're going to be able to leave some stuff to dry on the stalk. Some corn's going to be left in there. And of course, with the moisture content harvest collected in November's crop is in strong demand to vie against increasing expense of wheat and offset of shortages from Brazil. So the offset from Brazil is probably not up to snuff considering all the drought problems they've had down there. But France, farmers in France, the European Union's top producer, are being told by gas suppliers prepare for shortages unless the fuel and even postpone collection if possible. Use less fuel or postpone your stuff. It's too expensive for Ukraine farmers to dry corn after gathering it. That kind of goes without saying, I guess. They're in the middle of a war. and that's why they seek to dry it in a natural way in the field. So they were talking about doing it in the field, but drying stuff in the field also has its disadvantages. For one, there could be some winter storm that comes along, might damage some of the crops. There could be insect damages. If it's not super cold, there could be some mold problems. There could have a lot of rain that ends up with some kind of mildew issue. The quality's not going to be there. You're not going to get as much of it. Otherwise, they would just do it all the time and save money, right? If you could just dry it in the field and get the levels of moisture you needed naturally and not lose all kinds of crops, everybody would be doing that because it would save them money. But you can't do that and get the same quality and quantity of crops that's good for human consumption by doing it that way. That's why they harvest it and shuck it from the corn cob and then dry it in a big dryer. So that's being, they go on talking about that, but that's being the big gist of it. The harvest risk. Harvesting too late can deteriorate crop quality and reduce farmers' incomes. They're talking about from the financial aspect. I'm talking about from the food aspect. We're already hit with major food shortages. We're already talking about famines in some areas. And then you got places like Sri Lanka that's going full way to the left when it comes to organic farming. This right here is a chart of gas prices. Actually, it's kilowatt hours of energy. So this is natural gas for the EU. This is a Dutch scale here. So this is what it was for them at the time I printed this out a few days ago, which has probably fluctuated some since then. It was at 239.84 euros per megawatt hour. And if you look back into June time frame, it was less than 100, so that's more than the 2 times increase, and that's after it's come down from this spike. But if you look at that spike, that was almost 3.5 times, or maybe 3.5 times, because it was less than 100 here. So you're talking about 3.5 times more expensive. It's fallen down to over 2 times more expensive. That's going to have a major impact, and that's before the wintertime even starts. And things like this is going to affect the drying of that corn. So that corn doesn't get dried. Forget the droughts, forget the water problems, and you forget all the rest of the stuff. Even if you are growing it, if you can't dry it or process it, what's the point? So that's going to make the existing food crisis that much worse. So right now, at this point in time, moving towards winter, because winter will be here soon enough, too soon in my opinion. Energy is all the name of the game. So harvesting whatever you can. If you have a garden, trying to get that last little bit, canned, dehydrated, whatever you want to do, eating it. And then another strategy you can do is, if for everything that you're harvesting out of your garden that you're eating, buy a canned good for that you would have bought normally. Okay, I would have bought some of these green beans for dinner tonight, but I got squash out in my garden. So instead of just eating squash out the garden, if you don't have a good method of preserving it, just buy a can of green beans that you would have ate anyway, throw it in the cabinet. That way your food bill is the same, but at least you're offsetting it with garden stuff. That's another strategy. Make sure you're putting something away, right? So I'm sure everybody's heard about this, but if you haven't, there's 22,000 people in Colorado. Utility company said, "No, we're locking down your air conditioning. We, with smart meters and smart technology for your thermostat, are going to decide what temperature you can set it on because energy costs." Now you can go down here and read about it, and they had locked to 78, 79 degrees. There's 22,000 customers in Denver, Colorado area who signed up for the Colorado AC Rewards Program. Signed up for a rewards program. The rewards program apparently had some fine print that people weren't paying attention to. Some AI was deciding what to do with it. Their excuse was voluntary program. They got a $25 annual discount, basically. So they got a $100 credit and $25 annually credit for their. So $25 annually is what, $2 and some change a month off on their utility bill, so they could have somebody else control the thermostat for them? Hell no, to put it nicely. I hope everybody involved in this affiliate program their rewards program rather, I hope everybody goes and unsubscribes to that. Not this channel, subscribe to this channel. But get rid of that program. And I hope anybody who gets something in the mail about something similar, when they see some kind of rewards program, check that fine print before you sign off on anything like that. I just don't trust that anymore. And then, of course, in here, this is just a headline that was showing up in there, but this is also talking about energy, how you got more than 20 million households behind on utility bills. All right, so that is a lot. That's here in the United States, more than 20 million people. So basically, the point of this video is all about the energy. So we know we're going to stockpile food. We know we need to be able to be prepared for power outages and things of that nature. So power outages, at least where I'm at, has not materialized as of yet, but I don't trust them. I don't trust the water, I don't trust the power, I don't trust the government to provide any kind of service. Things are collapsing. And of course, not everybody's got the money to run out and buy all kinds of generators and solar stations and all the rest. So it's a matter of doing what you can to be as prepared as possible for what you can. We know we need to stockpile some food, but I wanted to bring it out there that the corn crisis, and this may affect things other than corn, is going to be a bit more pronounced than a lot of people are talking about, because nobody's thinking about the fact that this corn has to be dried and there's no gas to dry them. Right now, they're in Europe. They're cutting public hot water. They're cutting off streetlights. People are out there chopping firewood. They're trying to harvest and store as much gas and resources as possible to get through this winter time. I saw the other day the new Prime Minister of England has lifted the ban on fracking, so they're going to start fracking. But it doesn't happen overnight. You can't just go from, oh, we lifted the ban, to all of a sudden we've got tons of fuel available for the citizens to not freeze to death. They're projecting they may be able to start getting some returns in March. Well, a lot of winter's already passed by that point in time. That's if things go on schedule. You got to think, if things do go bad in the Indo-Pacific region with China, no one's tying that one in there. Most everything is manufactured there. So if they need parts for their fracking equipment, if they need anything like that's tied to China, tied to Russia, tied to whatever, you got shipping problems, shipping delays, you got war in Ukraine, you got all this different stuff interrupting the global supply system. So I wouldn't count on it being March. It may be, and I hope it is, even sooner than that. But I wouldn't be putting away the chainsaw just yet if I was chopping down wood and living over there. Now, where I live in the United States, and where I'm assuming most people that are watching this live in the United States, although it'll be interesting if some people don't, what's kind of going on in your local area, throw some comments down there about that, is how is it going to affect your utility bills? If you heat with heating oil or kerosene or electricity, what kind of prices and stuff are you seeing there? What kind of expectations are there going to be? $5 a gallon, $6 a gallon, $8 a gallon for that kind of liquid fuel? You're going to be heating with propane heaters. Some people may be the off-grid or maybe have a natural gas heater in their house. They're going to do natural gas or propane. Interested to see what's going to be happening with that. So that's something to keep an eye out on when it comes to the corn and when it comes to energy. As far as other stuff goes, alright, so I also want to throw a sneak peek. All with my own money, of course. I have a tiny channel. Nobody sends me any kind of sponsorships. I'm going to be doing a review on this. I've been taking some video footage of it. I've been messing with this for the past few weeks, months maybe. I bought this the day they came out. And so it's the Blue Eddy EB3A. And so I have some thoughts on this, and I'm going to show a few real world uses I put with this thing. Because when I'm looking at Power Station, I want to know what all can I do with it. A lot of the videos are great. They talk about how you don't have a power brick anymore and all the features and the unboxing. I want to see it in action, right? So I got a video on that coming out here soon. I just need to get to editing it and take care of that stuff. Anyways, and of course I have this little adapter piece. I'll talk about that too. That's so I can use my existing Harbor Freight solar panels on this thing. It works too. Anyways, so look for that. So like, share, subscribe. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video.